You are listening to the Bravo Creative Podcast, hosted by Tom Baker. Thank you for listening. Your position has been triangulated. Drone army has been dispatched to your location. Commencing attack run in 3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome to the Bravo Creative Podcast, and thank you so very, very much for listening today. We've got a great show for you today, but first I need to give an apology. I'm sorry. I'm so very sorry for missing the last few weeks. But fortunately for me, life has gotten very, very busy, and that's a good thing. But it has been an adjustment for me. To set the stage, 3 weeks ago, I had just a couple of things in the works. And as of now, I have about too many things in the works. And life has gone from about 10 miles an hour to about 150 miles an hour. And it's all good stuff. But man, anyways, I'm not trying to make an excuse. It's just that the podcast has presented a new challenge that must be overcome. So I apologize for my schedule, but some good things have happened from it. I'm actually going to be in a show down in Branson. I'm doing the community theater production of Mamma Mia down there the first 2 weeks of August. I'm working on about 3 editing projects right now, which are challenging and fun. And I think we're going to have some great stuff that comes from that. And we have another project that one of my past guests, Shannon Michelle, who was on, her and I have been working on a really cool event that we hope to be able to announce very soon for all of my listening audience. So more on that as that develops. So now on to some of the housekeeping. You can find the Bravo Creative Podcast on all your favorite platforms, such as Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, YouTube, and it is shared directly from the Bravo Creative Podcast page and on the Bravo Creative website at www.bravocreative.net/Bravo Podcast. Today's sponsor is Get Busy. I am telling you, folks, I have talked with quite a few talented and successful people as a result of this show, and it's official. Getting busy is the name of the game. You got to just rip off the Band-Aid and go all in, and you will be amazed how you start building a schedule where there wasn't one before. Your heart rate will go up, ideas will flow, connections will be made, and most importantly, the projects will get done. And then you'll get up and you'll start it all over again. So get busy. But there's one caveat. Okay, maybe there's 2. Here is some podcasterly advice about getting busy. Number 1, only take on what you plan to see through till the end, and make sure there is an end in that project. Excelling in a project requires focus, and it requires a lot of time. So don't take on 8 projects and think you're going to be able to give it 100%. That's like 800%, like 8 times 100 is 800%. That's not going to happen. So number 2, sometimes you got to know when to stop and know when to phone a friend. You may not be the one to see it to the end, and it hurts momentarily, requires some humbleness, and you may feel like a failure, but you're not. My guest today is someone that I have wanted to have on the show for some time, but we were waiting for the right time to get her on and to talk about her new, exciting, and very original project. And we've only chatted in passing a few times, so I'm excited to have her on the show to hear more about her and her work. And here's just a little warmer for my guest's film project. The log line reads, "Just because it's buried doesn't mean it's gone," which sounds very intriguing. The film is Finding Joy, and the official funding campaign begins on July 15th. And without further ado, I'd like to welcome to the show Val Bates. Val, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Tom.
What are you working on? You've got it looks like you've got something going on like every week, or something you're filming every week, or you're getting photos taken, or you have a very robust Facebook presence.
Well, thank you.
Do you spend a lot of time working on that?
I'm really not that great at social media. I kind of have to force
You could have
myself
fooled
into
me.
it. Well, thanks. I've gotten better at it with my job and with, being in the industry. So that's good to hear. Thank you.
So now what is your job?
So I work for Hoffman Model and Talent Agency in Leawood, Kansas, and I've been there for going on 9 years now on staff. And I've been signed with them for over 10 years. So on staff, I work as the broadcast and marketing specialist. So I screen all of our actors and voiceover talent. I scout people for the agency. And I also work on marketing materials closely with our owner and president, Kim Hoffman. So we lay out the modeling comp cards, which is basically like a model's business card. So it's got like the headshot on the front, their name, the Hoffman logo, and then on the back, it's got 4 images and then stats so that, like they can hand it out to clients and they can see how they do photo movement and how they photograph. And also selecting headshots for actors and putting together the web pages for the website. So
wow,
it's a lot of stuff. Yeah.
And you've been doing that for like 10 years now, or 9 years now?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and I've done a lot of different things at Hoffman. I used to work as the booking agent, very time-sensitive deadlines, like crazy busy all the time. And now we have our wonderful Patty Gehring doing that. And so I do work closely with her in the agency department doing, screening the actors. And I also teach the acting classes for the professional course and the kids club class as well.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
It's a lot of fun.
So now, what is your background? I mean, you went to school for
film.
Mm-hmm. And where did you go to school?
I went to the Art Institutes International, Kansas City, which is actually not there anymore. The chain still exists. The Kansas City location is just no longer. But it was an accelerated program for 3 years, like year round. It was crazy. But it was so much fun. I learned so much about the industry, and I still work with a lot of my colleagues from film school and some of my teachers, my instructors. And I have my Bachelor of Arts in digital filmmaking and video. See,
we're starting to see a trend here is that networking is very important.
Yes.
In the business.
Yes.
Very important.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it really is. And I had to kind of push myself to do that, because I'm an extrovert, but I'm also an introvert, like equally. Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of a hermit. I like to spend time alone and, just here at the house with Lindsay and our dog Mia. And we just kind of, we hole up, but we also get out and be social. But as far as networking, I had to push myself to introduce myself to new people, potential, clients and filmmakers that I wanted to work with. And, it's just kind of pushed me out of my comfort zone, but I'm comfortable with it now. So
that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
So now you have a project that's coming up here really soon.
Yes.
So let's talk about that for a second. It's called Finding Joy.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, so Finding Joy has actually been in the works for a very long time. It started out originally as a short film, and gosh, I started writing it when I was in film school. And it's funny because I actually cast Tangela Welch as the mother, and she is playing Joy, the mother, now in the feature.
Oh, okay.
Which is awesome. But yeah, so it started as it was very, very different then. It was more about like urban exploration, but also about loss. And this urban explorer, who was the main character, which now is Roni, she was grieving the loss of her mother and just trying to find herself. And she felt lost, but she was intrigued to these desolate, abandoned places.
Oh, okay.
Where she could just kind of be and sort of try to sort through her thoughts and everything and heal. And so that's where it originated. So now, where it is now, it's developed so much. So I came back to the idea because this is crazy. So I now live here in Joplin with Lindsay at this house that we're in now, that we're sitting here talking in. When we were long distance for a couple years, I was based in Kansas City. He was here, so we would switch weekends, and I would come here a lot. I had never, ever experienced sleep paralysis before I was here in this house, and it would only happen when I was here and he was gone, because he works one Saturday a month. And so it would happen when I was alone, and I would go back to sleep after he left, because he leaves early. And it was this thing that it would happen every single time he was gone. And then it started to escalate once I moved in. It started to happen like, it was like once, then it was like twice, then 3 times or more a week. And it was always just so, I can't even begin to describe like how terrifying it is. I guess the script kind of describes that, but right. And you'll see that in the film. But that is where, I decided I wanted to kind of go with the story, because I was, just struggling with this. And I didn't know anyone in my life who had that experience. And I felt sort of isolated. Like I had talked to Lindsay about it, but he had never had it.
Like, so maybe there's like really something wrong with you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought maybe, but I was like, but why is this happening in this house? Like, this is kind of strange that this is, but also it was a transitional period in my life, a huge transitional period and a really big change. And so I think a lot of it was probably generated by stress. But I also believe in the supernatural, and a lot of the things I was reading about were linked to possible supernatural activity. A lot of people think that there is a supernatural portal or a door that's opened when you experience this phenomena. Yeah. Because, in all different parts of the world, people of all different walks of life who've never met each other have a lot of the same accounts. So for example, you got the shadow man, the demon on the chest, the old hag, those are like the 3 main ones. Mm-hmm. But then there's a lot of other ones, like the auditory hallucinations, like the really, really intense. And that's what I was having. And I was seeing some things too. But I never actually really saw a shadow man. But that is something that I did write into the script, because, it's part of paralysis, and it's part of the struggles that people endure when they are going through this.
So was this the first time you'd ever had it ever? Was like you never had any kind of, so that had to be super duper scary whenever you have it for the first time, and then all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And so how long was it before you actually found out that it was called sleep paralysis?
I was started researching it, like just looking at like sleep disorders, and I came across that. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I'm experiencing, because I'm, you're aware. Basically what happens is your mind wakes up before your body does, because when you go to sleep, your brain shuts your motor skills down so that you don't act out your dreams, and you're not like hitting people and walking all over the place. And so when that happens, you're fully aware, you can see everything, you can feel everything. But then there are like what are called hallucinations, which could be real, could be hallucinations. I don't know. It's up to the viewer's discrepancy, I guess. But, because it feels so real and it seems so real. It's very off-putting. And I would have, the auditory hallucinations were what I started with. And then I did have some visual hallucinations, which was basically just like the blinds moving. And then I actually had physical hallucinations as well, where it felt like somebody was grabbing me and pulling me up into bed. But then when I would come out of the episode, I was like laying down like normal. So it was very strange, very, very strange stuff. I didn't understand it.
Wow.
So, yeah.
I've had one of those dreams where I woke up and I dreamed that I'd jumped in the shower and brushed my teeth and got my clothes on and was heading out to the car to go. And then I wake up and I'm like, crap, I got to do all that.
Oh my gosh. So it's like,
I don't think that's the same thing though.
It's not, but it's like,
That just made me mad. It didn't scare me or anything like that.
I've had those too though, where you're like, you haven't been sleeping for very long, or maybe you wake up and then you go back to sleep and then you imagine that you've done these things. I've had that happen before too.
So basically finding joy, you incorporated this condition or episode that you've been going through, and you incorporated that into an existing story that you had. How did you? Well, I want to go back. I want to go back just a little bit, because that idea that you got, however many years ago, for this, it started from what?
It really started from my interest in urban exploration, and I loved to write. And so I just wanted to, see what I could come up with. And, that was really the only thing that I was writing from, like, my personal experience, because I'm huge into that. I do that a lot. Mm-hmm. And then, everything else, like her losing her mother, grieving, and then meeting this person who kind of helps her heal. That was all, fictional. Mm-hmm. And so... Yes, it changed so much, but those elements stayed the same. The urban exploration thing, it kind of comes into play a little bit in the feature, but it's all in the dream state, or mostly in the dream state. But the location is significant in the story because of something that happens there. So it's not like she's going to explore this place because it's fun for her, or because she needs to be alone. It's because
she's searching for something there. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what version on the script are you?
Oh, gosh. So this is funny. So I actually did a whole version of this where it's completely different. And there was a whole exorcism thing going on, like all of these, and oh my gosh, I did let some people read it. I got some feedback. Some people really liked it. But I got some really valuable feedback from someone who basically was like, this has been done. And also somebody who's not even in the film industry told me, she said, I don't see the appeal of a scary film that has like possession or an exorcism in it, because I can't relate to that. Yeah, maybe it's real. It's happened to some people apparently, but I can't relate to it. And so I was like, okay. That really set with me. And so when I did the rewrite, I went back to the original short and tried to just expand on that more. And because I had just, I was struggling with the sleep paralysis, I wanted to make it more about that, because there was some elements in that with the, the exorcism version, but it wasn't the main thing. And it's in this one, it is the main thing. Okay. Very much so, because this is a condition that Roni has developed because of buried childhood memories.
So the film answers the question as to why she has it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. When you went through that initial idea, is your process to, as soon as you get the idea in your head, is it just to start writing? Or do you have a marination? Do you have notes? Are you jotting down ideas and then putting them all together? How does that process work for you?
For me, I just sit down and write, and I kind of just see where it goes. And, with this final version of the story, it just came so naturally because I could relate so much more. Because, it was largely about the paralysis and then exploring these two characters, and Roni has her best friend Trish, and she's the only person in the world who is played by Aline O'Neill.
Yeah.
The wonderful Aline. She's the only person in the world that she trusts at this point because of everything she's been through. And so, developing the relationship between them it just felt really organic to me. It wasn't something that I personally have experienced in that regard, but I just, as I was writing the dialogue scenes and like figuring out, what's going to happen next, it really just flowed naturally. But as I was doing, the versions, like, you got draft 1, draft 2, draft 3, draft whatever, I don't even know how many drafts I did because, you reread it and you want to change things. And it's like, for me, the dialogue too, I get wordy. And so it was going back and just making it more simple, just getting more to the point and keeping it about the main thing and not getting off on tangents and things like that. But as I was refining, definitely going through the drafts and having people read it, giving me feedback, that helped me a lot.
Has the ending changed? Has that been like from the very beginning? Was the goal shifted during this whole process of rewriting and coming up with a new kind of concept in the middle of it, did that change a lot?
From the first draft to the end, the ending really did stay mostly the same. There was a pretty significant change that I made with regard to the relationship of Trish and Roni that I thought was very important to have in there. And I was like, it just kind of dawned on me and I was like, duh, why didn't I do that before? And I told Aline about it and she was like, oh my God, I love it. And so that's what we went with. But I don't want to give any spoilers.
No,
so.
sure. Well, and I can imagine that it probably makes it easier to write knowing what the ending is going to be.
Yes.
Sometimes you sit down and you start typing out something. Well, I got an idea for a script, and you start writing, and all of a sudden you get to the end, and you're like, I don't know where this was going.
Right, or like how to wrap it up.
And then
right?
you're really hosed, and you're like, yeah, this is all crap, and you throw it away, and you go to the next one. But no,
right.
It's good that you had kind of a template that you've been marinating on basically for the last however many years, so you could kind of just keep reworking it.
Right. And it, like I was saying, it changed so much, like from that last feature version to this one. I almost feel like that first one was kind of a joke, like, but it helped me find my way.
Sure.
And it helped me figure out exactly what kind of story I wanted to tell because, I'm a huge horror fan and I love, thriller, suspense, drama. And I just wanted to make it more about, yes, the paralysis is very scary. And it is, in a way it could be a horror film, but I feel like it's kind of ended up more as like a thriller drama because it is mostly about, what's happening within Roni, and she's uncovering these buried memories that she had no idea that she had.
I have to ask this question. Why do you like horror?
Why? Oh gosh, I think it starts from a long, long time ago. I've always loved it since I was a kid. I watched The Sixth Sense when I probably was way too young. I begged for it for Christmas and I got it on VHS for Christmas and it was amazing. Sorry, my parents probably don't want me to say that, but like they got that for me for Christmas, but I still have it. I still have that VHS copy. And I think it's just because, it stirs something in me. It makes me feel so unsettled and it's, in a lot of ways it's cathartic. I like, I obviously like dramas and things that don't have any horror element at all. As long as it makes me feel something very profound and full. And I guess I'm taking a guess that's probably why, because The Sixth Sense really hit me when I was that young. And like, I actually understood it after I watched it a few times. Even being that young that I was. And it is largely a drama too. But there are some very freaky parts.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I was afraid to go to the bathroom by myself at night, but I was like, I still want to watch those movies and I still freak myself out that way. But
so would that be a big influence then? Sixth Sense would be a big influence as far as this type of film? Or what would you say was an influence on this film? In your opinion, not to give anything away. Right.
That's a really good question and one that I was not prepared for. Let me think. So one of my favorite filmmakers is Lars von Trier. He has very controversial films and a lot of people don't like his stuff, but it's very unsettling. And I wanted to make something that, here's an example is Antichrist, which a lot of people don't like because of the certain the thing that happens, but it's the suspense build. It's the, that underlying sense of dread that's just through the whole thing. And I just wanted to make something like that. I wanted to make something that was visually stunning. I mean, that's an art film. It's beautiful.
Oh yeah.
So beautiful. And I love Charlotte Gainsbourg. I love, Willem Dafoe. I mean, who doesn't? Yeah. So, I think that he was a really big influence for me, when I started film school, and a deciding factor where I was like, okay, I want to do this. This is something I want to do. I want to make art. And I want it to be something that's going to change people or make them feel something.
Right.
So.
Wow, that's crazy.
I don't know if it really answered your question.
I wouldn't have pegged you for a Vars fan, really? But you know what? That's great. That's great. So now that you have marinated on it, you've built your script. Are you done with the script? Like it's rock solid done, right?
It is, absolutely. Yep.
During that final process, did you ever do like table reads or anything like that where you were able to kind of make minor adjustments to dialogue and stuff like that? Was that an important part of the process for you?
It was, yes. And I always love table reads. I mean, it brings it to life in a way that it hasn't been brought to life yet. You know, you've just been sitting in front of your computer writing and writing and rewriting and having it, you know, everybody there and everybody's reading their character and you can actually visualize it. Like you're listening to their voice. You can see it in your head. That was super helpful. And we had a table read before COVID. And it was great. And not everybody was able to make it. We had one main character who didn't come, but we actually ended up having to recast him. So it worked out anyway, but, yes, absolutely. And it was great to, there were some things that changed that I decided to change from that table read because, you know, as you're going through that, you start to see things like little holes, you know, that it's like, oh, does that quite make sense? Maybe not. Maybe I need to go back and explain something. Or
it sounded so much better in my head.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
It's like my opening monologues. I have to read them through. I have to read them out loud before I even do it, because if not, I go, okay, you're not listening to yourself. Right. You're just writing.
Right. Totally. I get it. But yes, that was a big turning point for me. And it was just like, it made it real, you know, I mean, and it was already real. It was on the page, but, and I was like gung ho about doing it. I'm like, I'm doing this thing. We've cast everybody. We've got our crew. We have an amazing team, but just sitting there and doing the table read, that was really what locked it in for me and was just like, it hit me. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's happening. So it was really neat.
We were kind of talking before we started recording about the idea that you get an idea in your head, you write it out, you go through that slog of a process and that self-doubt and all those little things that go along with it. Yeah. And then you add some more punishment to yourself by saying that you're going to do it. You're going to go through funding. You're going to go through all of those parts of like executive production and getting people together and all that kind of stuff. And that is painful in and of itself.
It is.
And that's before you've even started rolling the camera.
Right.
So, and I'm sure you're aware of all that. And now you're deciding to do a feature film, right? That's what this is.
Yeah. It's ambitious, I know.
Yeah.
Or is it stupid? I don't know.
It is. It's all of the above. But you know what? That's why we do what we do, right?
Right. We're artists. We're a little crazy. It's
okay. Yeah. We've got to have a little bit of it. What was that process like? I mean, was it pretty flippant, or did it take a while to kind of wallow in it and wrestle with the idea of really, because you're at a point now where you've got a proof of concept coming out. You've got a funding page that's coming out for the actual feature length production. So now you're at that next stage, but I mean, talk about that. What did that feel like, having to go through all of that?
Well, I feel like I'm still kind of going through it because, with the crowdfunding, because it is daunting, and it's one of those things that, you know, you want to just put off because it's not the fun part, you know, and it's awkward, you know, it can be awkward asking people for money, but really what you're doing is just putting it out there and say, hey, do you believe in this project? Would you fund this? Would you back this to see it? Really. And I think that part is cool about it. And that's kind of what keeps me going. But I actually so with the crowdfunding, I was really having a hard time with it. And then, so Damien Costello, who worked on Vincent's Vow, and that's how I met him. He's very much a get things off the ground guy. That is really one of his big strengths. And he approached me and, you know, said he'd seen the things I was posting about finding joy, and he was really interested in it and he wanted to be a part of it. And so then we started to get to talking, and he had all these great ideas for crowdfunding, and he's really been, you know, I have to give my thanks to him for my knowledge of crowdfunding now, because I've learned so much through the process, and it doesn't seem out of reach anymore because I actually know what I'm doing. I know that there's an algorithm to it. There's a method to the madness.
Sure.
It's just doing it,
Yeah.
getting out there and doing it.
So are you, is kind of crowdfunding the way you're going to go with the project?
That's where we're starting.
Yeah.
I'm talking with someone I'm trying to get on as a producer right now. So we'll see what happens. But if we don't get, if we don't get a producer outside of the funding, I think that we'll be okay because I've got a team who I'm working with, and also just there are other little things you can do to make up for, like if someone on the team, like something might happen and maybe they're not able to do as much one week as they are for the rest of the 30 days. There are things you can do to kind of save face and kind of fill in those holes and still have momentum on the crowdfunding. The main thing is just getting other people to see it. So that's where the team comes into play, and they can, share things a lot and engage. And so more people will see it. Facebook and Instagram, they're not friendly. They don't care about you personally.
Are you serious?
They care about, right? I know, it's such a surprise. They care about the algorithm. It's just all about, it all comes down to money for them.
Yeah.
So if, you have something that has a ton of engagement, you're going to get more people to see your page. Whereas they might not even have no idea about it because they didn't see it on your feed, So just things like that I'm learning, but it's daunting nonetheless.
Yeah.
But it's still something we have to do to get the project going. So
yeah. So what are you all thinking as far as when you will start filming, and what's your kind of your schedule for that you all have set?
Yes. So we are looking to launch the campaign mid-June, and that'll go for 30 days. And then once we're funded, we can start scheduling things. So I'm really just as soon as we're funded, I'm going to try and start getting things in the book because we have most of our locations locked down. There's one location that I still need to scout out, but I have a good idea of where to find it. But our primary location is a beautiful, beautiful stone cottage in Kansas City. My mom actually used to own it, and she kept in touch with the owner, and that's how we're able to use it.
Oh, that's cool.
It's so cool. And he's just so laid back. He's so cool. He thinks the process is awesome. He's like, I just think it's so awesome that this is happening in my house. And so I've been sending him screenshots and some teasers and stuff.
Oh,
He's like,
cool.
I think it's so cool to see my house in there, So having somebody who I don't feel like we're in the way, and because it's our primary, it was important to me to find a place where I was comfortable and, and my mom lived there. So it's it's so special to me.
It has a familiarity to it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it'll live on as Roni's house in the film forever. So that's something that's special to me. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
It's fully cast.
It's fully cast. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you've got how many casts are in it?
Oh goodness. We're small. So we've got I'm playing Roni. Aline is playing Trish. We have the wonderful Deborah Maddock, who's playing Dr. Williams.
Oh, I love Debbie.
Yeah, she's great. The sleep psychologist. Damian Costello will play Kyle, the sleep tech. And then we've got, my gosh, I feel bad if I'm forgetting people. And then we've got, some day players. So we have the sleep receptionist, which is my friend Jessie Burkett out of Kansas City, and Ronnie's coworker, Jennifer Seward, also out of Kansas City. These are some big name actors. I know that you're from Springfield, so you may not know them, but I wish I had bigger roles for them,
Right.
Because they're so fabulous, but eventually,
there
will be more projects.
Baby steps.
Yeah. And then Ashley Moreland is playing Ronnie's boss, another day player role, but all speaking roles, all very important. And also we had Isabel Jones play young Roni, and Alina Dunn play young Trish.
Okay.
And actually Isabel came out of Florida.
Really?
She saw my casting call somewhere online, and they submitted, and I was like, are you guys willing to work as local? Basically, we have a really tiny budget, and they're like, oh, absolutely. And she was perfect.
Really?
Oh my gosh. If we hadn't found her, it would have been hard really hard to find somebody else. But, we did have some good girls who auditioned for it, but, she had the quality. She had what I was looking for.
Now, when did you do casting?
Gosh, it's been a long time. It was before COVID.
It was before COVID?
Yeah.
How long was that process?
Probably a couple months. I mean, I already had an idea of who I wanted. And of course we had Tangela Welch. Sorry, Tangela, I didn't mean to leave you out. So she's playing Joy, Roni's mother. And she, like I mentioned, she was originally cast in the short like years and years and years ago. And she and I have actually trained together out of Gately Pool in Chicago. So we're very close, and we've actually done exercises and like things like as mother-daughter. So it just made sense to continue that. And so, yeah, it was once I was looking for the other roles, I'd say it was like a couple months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
David Watson is cinematographer, correct?
David Watson is our cinematographer.
Who you going to have as far as director?
So I'm directing, and Damien is...
Yes, you are crazy.
I am crazy, but I'm used to self-directing too, I have experience with it, but I also wanted someone who was there when I was on camera, because there's so many things to think about when you're in character. It's like, it's too much. And so Damien is our guest director. So he's coaching me when I'm on camera. So.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. So
cool. So you've got then everything pretty well locked in, sound. Mm-hmm. Who's that?
So Kong Tao. Yes, of course. Yeah. The Bobby Kong, wonderful Kong. So he did sound. We had.
We need another Bobby Kong out pretty soon, because he hasn't had anything. He's tempted me with it, but he's not ever like fully produced it. So yeah.
Right. He needs to. It's too good not to. But yes, we did have. We had Madison Strain do sound the first weekend on the POC, because Kong wasn't able to make it, and then the second weekend Kong was on set doing sound, but he's sound mixing, like he's doing the production sound and in post. And then of course we have Tyler Foreman as our assistant director and our drone pilot. We also had Mike Strain doing the practical effects for us.
Okay. Yeah.
So he was great. He's
Studio 2060.
Studio 2060. Yeah.
Wow.
Great crew.
No, you do. So what is your plan after it's finished? How are you going to distribute it?
So I really my plan is to just submit it to the festivals and see how it does, see the interest and everything. And from there, see what we can do. I would love to get it on a streaming service eventually, like Amazon Prime or Netflix. Essentially the plan, I'm really excited to get it in front of the festivals and get it into the circuit and just get audiences to see it and know about it. So,
yeah. So have you thought of like what festivals you're going to send it to? Are there any that kind of pop out at you that you have any experience with in the past?
I don't personally. So this is actually like, aside from my student films, this is my first professional production. And I've met a lot of these great people through working on Ducon's film, Vincent's Vow. Mm-hmm. I felt kind of bad because I was like, Ducon, I'm stealing your crew and some of your cast, but it's just how it goes. He's like, no, it's great because they're all so talented. So anyway, so I'll definitely be looking into, there were festivals that he submitted, but of course that's a Christian film, so it's a little different. We do have LGBTQ, aspects in the film, so that will open us to some of those festivals as well, and definitely get some more outreach. And I think that'll be really good.
There's a what is it? There's a festival down in Arkansas that I think is put on by, is it Gina Davis?
Her name's familiar.
She's an actress, but it's a women's women in film.
Okay.
Film festival.
Okay. Yeah.
And just from going through and looking at some, because I submitted a film last year, and there were a few of those that, of course, I'm not eligible for those. So, but I saw them out there.
Oh yeah. And I that's a great point. And that's something that I thought about and I talked about with our production coordinator, Christy Ray Henry. Just like, the more female you can get on crew and cast and everything like that. You know, because she's really good at applying for grants and things like that. And so that's something that we had talked about when we were talking about budget and funding and all of that. And she said that there were certain grants that we could apply for, but we had to have a certain amount of female crew and cast members, which we have a lot of male on the crew. So I don't know that we'll be able to apply for those like specific ones, but I think there are some that we'll be eligible for. So that's another part of the funding that hopefully we can you know, tap into. But yeah.
Well, let's take a little step back, because I met you on Vincent's Vow. So, and I've talked to a lot of people that were on Vincent's Vow. So let's talk about that process a little bit, because it brings into a few things into play. Number one, your audition process. Had you worked in Springfield a lot up until that point? And then now you know quite a few people because of that one singular film that was done. And there's been a lot of things that have happened as far as your trajectory here lately, of kind of where you're going now, based off of just the simple thing of going out and getting out and networking and taking a chance on things. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's kind of an interesting thing. So I had never met Dukon. I had never worked in the Springfield area at all. It was before I even moved here officially. Like Lindsay and I were dating and I was here a lot. But I hadn't moved in yet, but we took well, maybe I had, because we took a trip to Canada. And I was in Canada. We were on a bus to Niagara Falls, and I was on my phone, and I happened to see, because I'm connected a lot on the, you know, film community on Facebook, and there's a lot of different groups. And I happened to see a casting notice that Dukon posted on one of those. I can't even remember which one it was. And I went to submit, but the platform, for some reason, like, you had to register for it, and it wasn't working for me. And I didn't know if it was because I was like out, you know, on a bus and my phone was being weird, or just because the site was weird. So I messaged Dukon directly, and I said, hi Dukon, just like introducing myself. I'm really interested in this. And the one that popped out to me when I saw the list of the cast was Valentina. I mean, like, my name's Valerie, but my mom has always called me Valentine. And so just the fact that that was the character's name. And then I read, you know, the character description, you know, like she was a troubled woman, but faithful. I loved that. And I think he said in there, like, think Abigail Breslin. I was like, I love Abigail Breslin. So anyway, so I messaged him and, you know, told him I was interested and asked if there was any other way I could submit. And he's like, oh, absolutely. And, you know, just send me this and this and this. And so I sent him all my materials, and, you know, we set up the casting. I was invited to the big casting call. But while I was in Canada, you know, I told him that I was in Canada, and he's like, are you eating a lot of poutine? And I was just like, of course I'm eating a lot of poutine. Like, I love poutine. So we had a little
I don't even
joke.
know what poutine is.
It's fries with gravy and cheese curds.
Okay.
Like the most unhealthy thing you could eat, but it's delicious.
I've had it called fries with gravy on top of it, but I've never,
There you go.
Yeah,
I mean, it's the same thing.
Yeah. I love it too. No.
Oh, it's great. Anyway, so we kind of had a running joke about that. But anyway, so I went to the casting, and I was actually wearing these acid wash pants that I got in Kensington Market in Canada. And I was like, I didn't even realize it. But then I was like sitting there waiting, and I was like, oh my gosh, these are my Canada jeans. I was talking to Dukon when I was in Canada. That's kind of weird. And so then anyway, like, I did the audition, felt really good about it. And then Lindsay and I were like, you know, we knew that the callbacks were going to be later that day, but we didn't really know when. So we were going to go to Battlefield Mall, kill some time. We were like halfway to Battlefield Mall, and I get a call from Jonna, and she was like, Val, are you still in Springfield? And I was like, oh yeah. She's like, can you come back to the studio? We want to have you for a callback. I was like, oh yeah, absolutely. So we didn't even get there, and I was like, oh, sorry, Lynn's like, we got to turn around. He's like, no, that's great. Cool. So we did, and I did the callback, and I felt really good about it. And then I got a call from Jonna when I was at work. I was at Hoffman, and I took the call in like a private office. I like closed the doors because I was like, oh my gosh, Green Glass Casting is calling me. It's like, this is Jonna from Vincent's Vow. And I got the call, you know, she offered me the role, and I was like silently screaming and jumping up and down in the office. Oh, it was a funny moment, but by myself. But anyway, so yeah, it was a very cool experience, like the whole casting process was very professional, and I felt instant connection with Jonna and with Ducon when I was in the room there. They just made me feel so comfortable, and I had never like I was saying, stepping out of my comfort zone completely, like never worked in Springfield at all. Everything I'd done was in Kansas City, so it was very nerve-wracking for me, and I was shocked. I was shocked to get it. So that was really cool, but I feel like I'm on tangent now. What was your...
No, just keep... I think the idea, and it even happened for me, was that whenever I moved here, almost 3 years ago, didn't know anybody in Springfield. I mean, maybe 2 people in Springfield. And it was just a matter of getting out and going and meeting people and just kind of sticking my neck out a little bit. And then finally you start meeting people, and, you know, it just kind of goes from there. But then it changes your trajectory of getting out and networking and meeting people. And I think the same thing kind of happened for you as well, is just by that simple, I mean, Vincent's Vow for a lot of us was what brought a lot of us together. Your cinematographer, and your guest director and
assistant director,
and
cast.
your audio person and your cast are all based off of that interaction and that experience.
Yeah.
And it's kind of what I tell my audience all the time, is that we are better together. And with the pandemic, obviously things have kind of taken a little bit of a step back.
Yeah.
But imagine the cool things that will happen if we start getting out and getting together and working on stuff.
Yes, absolutely.
Then it's just going to get ideas flowing, and people are going to get confident because they go, hey, I can produce this because I have a group of people that can help me through it.
Right.
And it's so very, very, very important.
It is. And I feel like it's kind of rare too, like to find who you can really call your film family. And I have found them in Springfield, and I never thought that I would find them in Springfield. I was based in Kansas City, and like got my degree in Kansas City, like went to school there. So I'm very well connected there. And of course I know a lot of people there. I've worked with a lot of people there, but Vincent's Vow was so special to me. Like that is my most coveted role to date. I mean, I think Ronnie's competing with Valentina now, but
right.
It's, it was just so important to me, and it was genuine. I mean, everybody is so genuine, and they truly are passionate about it. They believed in the project. And I never felt out of place. Even in this new city that I'd never worked in. I didn't really know anybody right off, but I felt accepted right away. It was just such a great feeling. And Mike Strain is actually the one who was like, he told me, he's like, you're part of our film family now. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love that. Thank you. Like,
that's cool.
And that's exactly what it is, like people you work with, they're your work family.
Yeah.
You've got your film family. So the only issue is just getting them all to Kansas City for a lot of the stuff we're shooting.
That's right. Yeah.
Only one of our locations is in Joplin. So a lot of traveling for them, and that'll be a, expense, but that's why we're fundraising.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It's worth it to get them there.
So talk a little bit, and go a little bit to the funding page and everything that you've got set up for that. You want to kind of break some of that down as far as what they can expect or what they can see on that?
Yes. So we are going with Seed and Spark. They are largely supportive of filmmakers. That's like 75% of their clientele is film. So that's really cool. And they also have film perks. So if you get like a certain amount of likes on your campaign page, they'll give you like a film package, which includes like hard drives and things like that. And so that was ultimately why I went with Seed and Spark. And I did a lot of research about it because originally I was going to go with Kickstarter, and I don't know, there was just some back and forth. So I just felt really good about Seed and Spark. So that's what we're going to be doing. That's where the campaign will live, and will be launched next month, and we will release the proof of concept trailer on the Seed and Spark campaign page. So that will be viewable when the campaign launches.
Cool. And then we'll link that out off of this podcast page. So that'll be out there available once it's up and going and live and all that good stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah. This is a little bit of a deep dive, but I I was thinking about this the other day. How concerned are you? And I mean, obviously there should be a lot of people out there that are somewhat concerned about it. But when you go onto one of these funding pages like Seed and Spark or Kickstarter or whatever, you are putting a proof of concept out there. Mm-hmm. And that proof of concept, in all intents and purposes, is kind of fleshed out. How worried are you about having someone come through and watch that and steal your idea?
That's something that I guess I've thought about in the back of my mind. But they don't have the script, man. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They don't know all the good stuff that's in there. And that's another thing is why, with the proof of concept, when I was sitting down and making the trailer script, pulling excerpts from the script, I wanted to make sure that it was going to be, cohesive, of course, but that it was going to get across the sleep paralysis part, have some intense moments in the dialogue and some drama in there, but not give anything away. And so I think we did a really good job of that. It gives you enough so that you know what it's about, but it leaves you wanting more. It definitely does. So I'm really excited to get this out there. So
did you follow I don't want to say formulaic, but it is formulaic. Did you follow a pretty formulaic story structure on this?
Yeah.
You
just
did?
As far as like the whatever the little diagram is.
Right.
With the start and then like the
rising action.
Yeah. The peak, or
rising
whatever that's
conflict.
called.
Yeah.
Conflict.
Yeah,
yes. And then the resolution and all that. I did. I actually had to kind of map that out when I was rewriting it, because from the first exorcism version to this one, because I was like, okay, I want to make sure that this all happens in a way that it's going to be really effective. And so I did. I have a whiteboard upstairs in my office on the wall, and I did that. I and it was up there for a while, and I just kept adding things to it. So I guess I did kind of. I wasn't just writing willy-nilly like we were kind of talking about earlier, where I just sit down and write, which I do a lot of that, but I did have that structure just to make sure that it wasn't going to be like, I wasn't going to go off on all these tangents or, have something that didn't really make sense, that wasn't really, or could make sense, but wasn't as relative to the story. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't want any fluffer. That was one of my main things. I didn't want any fluff. And so that really helped me to just like tune in on exactly what I wanted to
so
say.
You didn't have to kill any of your darlings in any of this?
No, not really.
Not yet?
Not yet. We haven't hit the editing room yet.
That's right.
Yeah.
So how many pages is it now?
Oh, goodness. It's, I think about 90. Or wait, no, I cut it down. So it might be around 70, 75, I think.
That's good. Gives you time to have some nice long scenes that breathe, not a lot of cuts and all that good stuff. Yeah, exactly.
And if you're going on the minute a page rule, then it could flesh out to about an hour and a half, and I wanted it to be something that people aren't going to lose their attention span.
Well, and if you're going the Lars route, you could have like one word of dialogue, and you could have like literally like 15 minutes attached to it too.
That's true. That's very true.
Gives you room. Yeah.
It does. And and that's such a good point to say, because a lot of times in those scenes, when you're shooting a really intense scene, you've got to let it breathe, and sometimes, actors, they're just get in this like mode. It's like bam, 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 bam. Well, sometimes that'll work. And a lot of times that's for, comedic timing. Like, you've got to go back and forth and back and forth, back and forth. But with this drama, that time to like sit and breathe is like really important. And it's also really effective to the audience. They're just like, kind of sitting there waiting, like it's like, what's going to happen next,
Yeah.
So we've got some good stuff that already from what we've shot for the proof of concept. So, yeah. Well,
I got to watch a little bit of it. It looked good. Looked really good.
Oh, did David show you?
Yeah.
David. No, it's fine. I've been sharing it around with people. It's good to get feedback.
Oh yeah.
I love that.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's and that's what gives you kind of that barometer to know that you're going in the right direction. Mm-hmm. Also, sometimes it's the barometer to go, okay, wait, I'm going to put the brakes on this and not go down. I mean, I don't think you're there at that point, but there is definitely a good thing with going out and showing your work out to people and seeing. I mean, I'm sure it's like you said earlier with the criticisms that you got when you first sent out your script. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's scary.
It is.
Because you'd been working on it for how many years, and then all of a sudden you decide, okay, I'm going to go ahead and put this out there. Let's let everybody tear me apart.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's how I felt. I felt completely torn apart. And I was like, I had to sit with it for a while because I got that message from, a friend of mine, Steven, who, was kind enough to read it. And he sat down with a few of his friends and they all did like a little read through of it. And he gave me the honest feedback. And it was like so honest. It was brutal, but at the same time, like I needed to hear it. And it really helped to to get us to where we are right now. And I've worked with Steven on some other things too. So of course I trusted him to read the script and to give me his honest opinion. And that's what I said. I was like, please be honest. And he really was. And so I'm glad for that. And I'm good with taking constructive criticism. It's just kind of like from being in film school and being in the modeling industry and like the acting industry, you get a lot of rejection. And
I'm sure.
Yeah, I've gotten used to that. So I think that it's different when it's something that you've written and it's from your brain, it's like, it's very vulnerable. You're putting it out there. It's like, okay, am I stupid? Is this dumb? Or is this good?
What is the worst criticism you've ever got? And how did you get through it?
Oh my gosh.
Like the one that sticks. Because obviously there's probably one that you got and you're like, oh, that one hurt.
Yeah. I think, probably when I've been commented about my body. And
really?
Yeah.
But I guess if you're in the modeling side, they're going to be brutally honest with that kind of stuff, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that's exactly where it was coming from. But like that's part of that industry. And I got into that part of the industry knowing that was probably going to be a thing. So, at first it was like, it was really hard to hear, but the more that I heard it, I was just kind of like kind of brush it off. But also, it's sort of, it's not that I don't take care of myself either, but it's helped me get on a more clear trajectory on fitness and health and really taking care of myself even more. Because I was doing things that I didn't really realize, like why this weight was staying, you know what I mean? But
of course,
it goes down to,
if you are the product, if you are your product that you're basically selling, I guess you got to really, that's all you can think about half the time, right?
Right. Yeah. But also I'm not a fashion model. So it's like, I'm a commercial model and an actress. And of course you still have to stay fit.
Sure.
You've still got to look good on camera because what they say, like the camera adds 10 pounds or whatever.
Yeah.
And I don't know how true that is.
I think it's bull crap. It's 20.
Right?
It's 20.
It's 20. Yeah, I know. And I see it, I've seen it when I'm watching myself on camera and I'm like, oh gosh, I don't like that. I need to do something about that. So, it was valid criticism, but it was hard to hear in the moment. But I'm glad that I heard it. And I'm glad that I was receptive and didn't let it just like completely tear me down and be like, well, screw this, I'm done with this, because I love this industry. I'm more on the acting side, but I still want to be able to look good on camera too. So,
sure.
Who doesn't?
So, going back then, how did you get into this? How did you get into this field? Like, why did you choose this of all the things to choose?
That's a good question. Great question. I think originally, so I never did theater when I was in high school. But since I was little, I always wanted to be an actress. Like I would watch films and rewind them and watch the songs and then memorize the songs and the dialogue. And I would literally be watching it and like mouthing the words. And my parents like saw me do that and they were like, she's going to be a performer. So anyway, I'm kind of surprised I didn't do theater, but I think what was off-putting about it for me was I auditioned for a lead role. I thought I did well, but I was a freshman. And so they only like put me in the chorus. And I was like, I'm not going to commit.
Everybody starts in the chorus.
Everybody starts in the chorus.
I
know, but I was like, this is like a ridiculous amount of commitment for just to be in the chorus. And I was like, do I really want to do that? I don't know. So I ended up doing other things in high school. So I was on the drill team and I also did Taekwondo. So I kind of, had other things going on. But when I graduated, I honestly thought I wanted to go into fashion. So we had this thing called this graduation research project we had to do. We had to pick something we were going to like create and have like a product to show and have like a whole speech about. It was kind of silly, but so I made like this like outfit thingy. And I realized, like, when I was going through that process, I hated it. I hated sewing. I hated the stupid sewing machine, like messing up all the time and not knowing how to fix it. And I had a mentor who was great and she knew what she was doing, but I like had to go over to her house to help her have her help me fix things. And I'm just like, it was so frustrating. And I spent so many hours on it for this one piece of, thing. I still have it and it's cool, but I was like, I don't want to do this. So that's when I started looking into art school, because I've always been very artistic and into art. I do a lot of fan art. I've done some painting and stuff like that. So I was looking to like more fine art. And then that's when I found the Art Institutes International Kansas City, and I saw that they had a film program. And I'm like, always been really into film and love to watch movies. I love TV. I love anime. I was actually originally thinking, I was like, oh man, it'd be really cool to do voiceover, like anime dub. That's what I want to do. And I was like, maybe this will help me kind of get into that. And so that's initially why I went to film school. But then there's just so many avenues. There's so many things to learn about. And I quickly learned that I did not like the producing side, but look what I'm doing now. I'm producing a movie. So, you got to take the good with the bad on it. And it was good that I learned all about, every aspect.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So you've never been on stage then?
I have once, and this was like, after I had, it might've been during, my film school. I did a show out of the Coterie Theater. It was called Slashdance. It was like a play on Flashdance.
Oh, wow.
And I was a cannibal. So which basically we were like zombies, but we were cannibals. So that was just a lot of fun. I got to learn about like costume distressing, and we got to do like our own makeup. And I actually won the award for and only the cannibals could win this, but like for the most people who showed up to watch it that you invited. So I had a lot of support.
Oh, really? That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
And it was a lot of fun. And I met a lot of people through there, so that was a great experience.
Now you just finished, or are you finished filming on Aging Predators?
I'm not yet.
So you still have some shots left on that.
Yes, which I'm excited to get back on set for, which will be next month. It'll be like near the end of next month, but then that'll be my last time on set for a while, because then they've got to finish everything with Chad, and then he's got to shave his beard to do like flashback stuff, and I'm in some of the flashbacks. So
gotcha.
I'll be doing stuff like right at the end of principal photography as well.
Gotcha.
So
yeah,
it's a great project.
I think they're over
halfway.
I think they're over half of the script now filming. So they're over halfway done in production. I think it's like 60 days of filming or something like that.
So much, but man, what a great crew. I mean, and Thomas, we haven't talked about Thomas yet, but this is the first time I've worked with Thomas, and he is a great director. He knows what he wants.
Oh, that's good.
Oh yeah. And he'll be honest, but he won't be like brutal, but he'll be honest and be like, no, yeah, I'm thinking about it more like this, like deliver it more like that. And so I'd do it, and then it wouldn't quite be there. He's like, yeah, just more, it's got to be more snarky, Val. I'm like, okay, I'm not a snarky person, let me try, and so I was like, and then like at the end of the day I was like, Thomas, did I give you what you want? And he's just like, yeah, I think so. But he's just very honest, and like that day I felt off about just certain things, and I kept second guessing myself, but he made me feel good about it at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And I feel good about it. I've seen some of the footage because David showed me some of it, and man, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it does. It looks really good. They're shooting it on that red camera. It looks really good. It's the same camera they shot Vincent's Vow with.
And we're shooting Finding Joy on.
Oh, is that you're using that poor red?
I know.
That poor red. That thing's going to be screaming when it's all over.
I know. Sorry, Ducon. But thank you for letting us use it.
That's right.
Okay, Tom, I just have one more thing I'd like to say about Finding Joy. I really hope that the audience will feel that this film really comes from the heart, and that it comes from an organic place. To me, and to a lot of people who have read it and who are on the team, they, have told me that it's so original. It's something like they have never really seen before. And I hope that the audience will see that this is something really special. And back us so that we can get it funded to get it made and get it out there. Because, you know, a lot of people like know about sleep paralysis, but a lot of people don't even know what it is. Like when I was talking about this to some people, they're just like, what is that? And so I would tell them like, oh my gosh, that sounds terrifying. Or they've heard about it, but they've never experienced it themselves. And it's such a small percentage of people who actually experience it. And if they do experience it, sometimes it'll only just be once in their life. But other people, like I happened to struggle with it for like over a year. And then this crazy thing, a little religious here, I guess, but like I put from one of my friends, recommendations, I put a crucifix above my bed and the episodes stopped. I'm not even kidding you. I'm not even kidding you. It's crazy. I know. And so that alone just tells me that there's something otherworldly going on when this phenomena happens. And I hope that people will feel that in the film. And if you like some creepy, scary stuff, we got some creepy stuff in store for you. But it's also very heartfelt. It really is. There's a lot of good stuff in there, relationship wise. And I hope that we'll get funded so people can see it. We can get it out there in front of audiences.
Best of luck getting it funded. I would just say that this definitely, just by listening to you talk and talking about the process, it's definitely been a labor of love for a long time for you. If we want to be able to get films done in Missouri and in Springfield, we have to start supporting them, folks. There's been a lot of time and effort that's been put into it. There's a great crew working on it. And the money that goes from this goes to help support those people and doing what they love so that we can entertain you. So get out there, fund Finding Joy. The link will be posted in the show notes. And if you're on Facebook, it will be posted in the description. Val, thank you so much for being on the show. It's been a pleasure. I think this is the most we've talked ever in our lives to each other.
Well, just everybody who's listening, thank you so much. And be sure to go follow Finding Joy on Facebook. We are Finding Joy Feature Film or at Finding Joy Film on Facebook and Instagram.
Awesome. Thanks, Val, for being on the show.
All right, thank you, Tom.
You have been listening to the Bravo Creative Podcast. Analysis of your biometrics have been compiled and calculated. You are now a minuscule part of the collective. Enjoy the rest of your pitiful day.